Coming up, as the shocking tragedy unfolds in Afghanistan, it might seem a bit inappropriate to mention it in the context of Brexit, and in no way would I ever compare the two foreign policies. But I do believe there are some interesting links between how the UK is handling the Afghan crisis and the unfolding saga of Brexit. Keep watching. If you enjoy our videos, please like, subscribe and hit the bell for notifications of new videos every Wednesday and Saturday. As I film this, there are reports that Liz Cut and Paste Truss has been spotted at Heathrow with her briefcase, on her way out to Kabul to negotiate a trade deal with the Taliban that will add 0.0001% to the UK economy over the next 20 years. Meanwhile, hoping to travel in the other direction, are thousands of Afghan translators and other civilian and military personnel who worked alongside British forces, hoping to secure an escape and refuge in Britain. But of course, in post-Brexit Britain, these asylum seekers are treated with disdain and suspicion, with the right-wing cabal currently in power in Westminster far more worried that one radical will slip through the net than that thousands of lives of innocent people at Kabul airport are in peril as the Taliban take control. The heartless and empathy-free Priti Patel is the last person you'd want in charge of immigration at this critical point in British history. Brexit brought Priti Patel to power, and the isolationist, xenophobic mood that swept Britain after the 2016 referendum is now informing our policy on would-be Afghan refugees. And there are other aspects of the UK policy on Afghanistan that are very closely linked with Brexit. As Boris Johnson sees it, the jewel in the crown of Brexit, and if it is a crown, it's a crown of thorns, is a trade deal with Biden's America. Joe Biden's baffling and disappointing decision to give up on Afghanistan was backed and then mirrored by Johnson with unseeming rapidity. So desperate is he to align himself with America in the hope of smoothing the way to a quick trade deal with the United States and securing that PR boost for a Brexit that is disrupting the supply chain, breaking up the UK, preventing freedom of movement for Brits and damaging our exports. So if Brexit is indeed a jewel, it'd be ambergris, which is of course pooped out by blubbery mammals. In this case, not Boris Johnson, whales. And before all the Brexiters pile into the comments section with tales about how great Brexit is going, can we just remind ourselves that just before Parliament broke for the summer, the eternally intellectually challenged Sir Lord Baron Lord David Frosty Frost demanded the renegotiation of this wonderful Brexit treaty that Boris Johnson described in December as a Christmas present to the British people. Lord Sir Baron Frosty was the chief negotiator of this wonderful Christmas present, which both him and Johnson seemed to view like a pair of worsted socks from Auntie Doris, and they're now desperately scrabbling through all the bins in the hope of finding the receipt so they can get a full refund from the shop that's now gone out of business because of their catastrophic handling of the pandemic and because of Brexit, of course. It was Johnson that proposed the border between Northern Ireland and Great Britain as a way to secure his hard Brexit. It was an unavoidable consequence that red tape and customs checks would have to be enforced, forming a de facto border in the Irish Sea. This was specified in detail in the Northern Ireland Protocol. Now, Baron Lord Sir David Frost is demanding wholesale change to the Brexit agreement, as if he and Johnson had no role in negotiating it. He's accused the EU of being too purist and too theological in its attitude to the treaty, as presumably he's claiming he's only asking to break it in a limited and specific way. Imagine if Prince Andrew was to be convicted of sex with underage girls, and then argued that the FBI were taking a too purist or theological approach to the law. It's enough to make anyone sweat. Frosty and Johnson claimed that they'd underestimated the effect of the Northern Ireland Protocol and how the EU would insist on them actually adhering to the agreement that they'd reached. But anyone with an interest in UK politics could have told them exactly how the EU would expect the agreement to be adhered to. The EU is not a theological or a purist organisation, but even its advocates would say that it is, at its heart, a bureaucracy. A bureaucracy follows agreements to the letter, and to allow leeway or non-adherence would be an existential threat to its very purpose. Both Johnson and Frost must have known this, and so clearly had no intention whatsoever of sticking to the agreement that they themselves had made. Meanwhile, the Tories still reckon that they're the party of law and order. But hey, I'm not comparing the situation in Afghanistan with Brexit. In fact, I've done my usual deep trawl of Twitter this week, and I can't find anyone who is comparing Afghanistan with Brexit, except the hate-filled, Brexit-obsessed Daily Express, who carried this headline on their UK homepage. Outrageous! Sick Remainers compared murderous takeover of Afghanistan to Brexit. Apparently, they'd found a tweet from an anonymous account with 0 followers that read, "This is a f***up obviously, but it has some pretty deep competition from Brexit." Clearly, this anonymous tweet proves that all Remainers are sick. Nice work, Oliver Pritchard-Jones. I rather suspect you of being that anonymous tweeter. Look, no one is comparing the horrendous loss of hundreds of British lives in Afghanistan to Brexit. I can't begin to contemplate the sacrifices made by those servicemen and women and their families without actually tearing up. And one final thought. One of the justifications for pulling out given by our government was the huge financial cost of fighting the war in Afghanistan. According to a reply to a written parliamentary question recently, as reported in the Mirror, the total sum spent was £22 billion. I can't help but recall the amount budgeted for Dido Harding's Serco/Randox/Deloitte's test track and trace system, a cool £37 billion, nearly double the amount spent in Afghanistan over the last 20 years. Perhaps the real difference between those sums is how much could be siphoned off from the test and trace expenditure into the pockets of Tory cronies, families and donors.